Hey, what's happening, folks? My name is Ryan Kostrowski. This is the DFS 5-pack. Hopefully, everybody had an awesome Saturday night of NBA DFS, maybe some MLB DFS as well. I will have to say it was a very good night over here. Took down a three-entry max GPP that I will go over after we go through the picks on DK. So, if you're curious what went into it, if that's something that's a concern to you, I will talk about it when we're all done. If you don't care, that's a perfect time to click off in the video then. Give me 1 second. Why is this not coming up? Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is I personally feel like, the show sponsor is Overlay Fantasy Sports. We talk about them real briefly at the start of every show. I'm really digging these playoff contests. Once again, one of the interesting parts about my day today is that James Ennis was a little bit of a hindrance. I thought he was going to cost me more. As you can see, like over here on Overlay, for example, when Ennis got ejected with Marvin Williams, that cost me this pick right here because he's probably going to score Connington if that's the case. So it cost me a little bit right here. Cost me in the 5-pick shootout as well, where you needed to be 5-0 to get into the money. So that's the interesting part about DFS, right? That may have helped me win the GPP on DraftKings. So that's the interesting stuff about this game. However, I find that these NBA contests are much more predictable than all the other sports we've been playing on here. So it's kind of felt like easy money. Been able to definitely put an influx of cash into this account the last couple of days, and we'll get back into doing these videos as soon as we can. We weren't able to get to it today just due to time, but if you're looking for a time to win some money, let's talk about playing Overlay during the NBA playoffs. It seems to be easier than normal. All right, guys. So again, couple things to go over. Again, like I said, we'll cover the GPP stuff at the end, but Luka plays in the second game, and he is firmly questionable, it seems like. If you watched the game on Friday, it looked pretty bad. Sometimes those ankle injuries get worse after you sit on them for a little bit. I don't think that we're going to get information on him prior to game one. Now, the Magic were nice enough to give us the news on Aaron Gordon this morning before the games. I don't think we're going to get that out of Dallas tomorrow. That's just my hunch. I don't know that for a fact. So it is going to make this one a little bit interesting because for me, I went pretty hard on the Clippers Mavericks the other day, and that worked out fairly well. But without Luka, I view this game significantly differently. So this might be a reason to strategize playing less of the first game, perhaps. I don't know. It's a lot to think about because without that information, the Seth Currys, Porzingis, even the guys on the other side of it, because you definitely get worried about the blowout if there's no Luka on the Mavericks. I think the Dallas is a decent team without him, but the Clippers are obviously very good, and that's going to be a difficult decision to make. So a lot to prep for moving in tomorrow. Guys, the NFL package, the day passes are all up on the website. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Thumbs up is appreciated. So let's talk about some of the guys I like, and I'm going to do my best to stick on the mid tier. The mid tier worked real well today. I'm going to go right back to it again tomorrow if we can. So I'm going to start with Jamal Murray, the Denver Nuggets. Look, the Nuggets they've just gotten their butts handed to them the last two games by the Utah Jazz. Credit to the Jazz for playing real hard, shooting the ball like NBA Jam on fire type of stuff. But I think you're going to see a real good fight out of the Denver Nuggets. However, without Gary Harris and Will Barton, I definitely think the Utah Jazz are the better team. The Nuggets need those guys, and they don't have them. Harris is listed as doubtful, so I can't picture him playing in this game. So I expect Murray. You know who the other guy is on Denver that's going to play a lot of minutes, is going to play hard. I expect Murray to come out significantly more aggressive than we see him. A lot of time he's the closer. He can't afford to wait around in this game. So expect to see the best of Jamal Murray early in this game. It's not technically over for the Nuggets if they lose this game, but I think we can all agree that if Denver doesn't win tomorrow or Sunday, it's done for them. So take a look at their best players. We know who their best players are. Jamal Murray is going to be more aggressive and assertive early. They're going to play a lot of two-man basketball, and I expect a good quality game from Jamal Murray in this one. Michael Porter just can't stay on the floor right now because he's a defensive liability. So look for Murray to definitely take this game over from an offensive perspective. He's just going to have to be more aggressive and more assertive. All right, next up from there, I don't really like the Boston Celtics, but I got to say, guys, This Jayson Tatum kid is coming. And I mean, in many ways, he's already arrived, but he's going to be something special. And I like what I've seen out of him throughout the playoffs so far. This is another one right here where the 76ers are down 3-0. And they're clearly the inferior team right now. Without Ben Simmons, they absolutely need him. And I expect him to fight, and I expect him to play hard on Sunday, which makes me to believe that because Boston's the much better team right now, that this is going to be a good game, though. Give me Tatum. Give me a full game of Tatum. He lost some run last time out. He got into early foul trouble, picked up the second way too early, and then picked up the third way too early after that. That's not normally an issue with him. He's not like my boy Giannis where this comes up over and over and over again. So I expect we get a full run of Tatum on Sunday. I expect he plays well. I think his scores are going to replicate something like we saw in games 1 and 2 and not what we saw in game 3. This kid he's on the verge of superstardom. He's already a star. I think by next year, this time, we're going to be calling him one of the league's superstars. Expect him to ball. Gives you availability at the 3 and the 4 tomorrow. I expect this game to be competitive. And if you give me a full 38 minutes or 40 minutes of Jayson Tatum, he's going to give you good things because he's just that good. Philly has no way to stop him. Their defense weakens considerably without Ben Simmons out there in the perimeter. And he's just a mismatch. He's a matchup nightmare for him. There's no Gordon Hayward, so they're down one more guy in this pecking order. I expect another really good game from Jayson Tatum on Sunday, and I definitely am interested in him. And I like him even better. And again, you're probably not going to know this, which is unfortunate, but I like him even better if Luka is out because then that game becomes less desirable in my eyes. All right, after that, I'm going to go to the flip side of this game and talk about Tobias Harris. So you got the 76ers definitely, this is their last gasp right here. I expect them to play hard just for pride more than anything. I don't think they want to get swept. In fact, I believe Embiid is quoted as saying that. I'm looking at Harris as a better GPP play in my eyes. But honestly, if you believe in him on Sunday, he's not a terrible cash game play. He plays big enough minutes and has a high enough usage rate that even though he's not super efficient so far in the series, he's at a high enough floor that he's probably not going to murder your lineups. So here's the kicker where I think potential upside can come from. One, the mid-tier build can be real money in the GPP format. Harris has shot 33% this series and 0 of 10 from 3. We know he can be better than this. Doesn't mean he'll be better on Sunday, but we definitely know he's very capable of being better than this. He's a solid offensive player. Probably not worth the contract they gave him, but a solid offensive player nonetheless. I expect him to play big minutes as long as this game's competitive, which I expect it to be. Much like Tatum, he gives the availability of the 3, the 4, and I absolutely do not mind pairing those two guys together. And without knowing about Luka Doncic, it sucks having to use these guys in the early game because if Luka plays, that game changes a lot. But, it is what it is. We're all working with the same stuff right here. All right, after that, let's go to the later game, Toronto versus Brooklyn. I'm going to talk about Tyler Johnson, a.k.a. Mose from The Office. What do I expect out of the Nets in game 4? I don't know. I expect them to fight. But what does that mean, right? Because if they don't make jump shots, they're just not good enough to compete with a very good Toronto Raptors team. So Tyler Johnson was very chalky the other day. I was fortunate to get away with not playing him, but he was very good on his time on the court. But like other guys, like Tatum that we brought up, he got into quick foul trouble, lost a bunch of his run. I also think Tyler Johnson, in the opportunity comes up and the Nets just aren't overly competitive in this game, I don't expect him to lose a lot of run. LeVert has done so much for this team the last couple of weeks that if this game gets lopsided, I think you can see LeVert on the sidelines. I like this kid a lot, LeVert, but I don't envision that being as big an issue with Tyler Johnson. Now, it's possible they'll go to Chioza and all the other scrubs that go along with it, but I think Tyler Johnson's in a pretty good job for minutes. Now, will his outside shots go in? Hard to say, right? We had mentioned Garrett Temple a couple different times lately. I know TLC was big-time chalk the other day. It was like 0 of 100 from three-point range while Tyler Johnson was stroking it. That's kind of the issue with all those guys right now with no Joe Harris around. They're getting shots because they're selling out to stop Karis LeVert. Will the shots go in? Tyler Johnson's shots been looking smooth lately. I trust him for decent attempts at the very minimum. No guarantee that they're going to go in, but he's definitely shortlisted as far as Brooklyn guys go for me. So that's what I'm looking at as of right now. Unfortunately, again, we're not going to know about Luka in time more than likely. I'm not really necessarily interested in Luka, even if he plays. It just changes how you value everybody else in that game, which makes for an interesting slate. So I kind of like the first game, but if you load up on the first game, you can't make adjustments if Luka's in or he's out. This is going to be the trickery come Sunday. So that being said, guys, um, let me just run through GPP finish for tonight. So this was not huge money or anything like that. This was a $3 3 entry max. I usually play heavier cash and then enter one of these every single day in the NBA. Today I entered two of them in full disclosure. Normally just do the one, but today I entered two because I had a few extra minutes. Got unlucky. I had my better lineup in the wrong one. This was the smaller one. I did back and checked, though. I would have finished first in the other one as well. It is what it is, right? I think Matt and I have talked about this a lot over the couple, our years together, and that is anytime you finish first place, there's definitely some good luck working in your favor. And today, I already whined and complained about how James Ennis left the game with ejection and how that cost me my cash lineup by a couple points. And unfortunately lost a couple of our customers their cash lineup by a couple of points as well, which I'm not happy about. But without going back and reviewing all these lineups below me and not knowing what Ennis would have done, there's a chance. I don't know if Ennis is in any of these. Probably not, but all right, so it probably wasn't an effect, but you never know what it could have been. Somebody else had just killed it and had Ennis in their lineup above that. So, I don't know. Maybe it was fortunate, maybe it wasn't. It doesn't really matter at this point. So, what were my thoughts and why did I put this lineup together this way? So I told you guys when we did the public video yesterday for everybody that my goal was to really pound the mid-tier. And then when we found out that Aaron Gordon was out, then I went a little more stars and scrubsy in my cash lineup with Giannis and Anthony Davis, who were both, good. But I wanted to still attack the mid-tier a little bit in my GPPs. So, why did I use these guys? Well, I broke down Brogdon yesterday on the video. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect him to throw up 68 points. That's a game of a lifetime for him. He was awesome. He was awesome in a loss, unfortunately, for the Indiana Pacers. I told you guys I liked him a lot. I never expected that. So, again, you're a little bit lucky right there. Moving down from there, Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon did exactly what I expected him to do. Basically mimicked the other three games, did it in a variety of different ways. Really didn't do anything in overtime, so overtime was not an influence on him at all whatsoever. After there, LeBron James. So what did I write for our customers today? Because all these guys were in the write-up as recommendations of who to play. I said for LeBron James, hard for me to be too bullish on him after he did us so dirty in game 2 of that series where I was all over him, and he was terrible. Now, he was terrible because the Lakers won by 1 million, but nonetheless, he was terrible, and that's something I have to take into account. So it was hard for me to be bullish on him, but I said he'd get 1 or 2 GPP appearances with me. So Matt and I were talking about this one earlier today, and he wanted to go really hard on Harden today. And I said I preferred LeBron James in tournaments. Ultimately, they both had pretty decent scores, but I think LeBron was a little bit better at lower money. So he was the stud play of the day. And it was hard to be bullish on it, but that's now 2 of 3 games in the playoffs where it's been their slate that LeBron has finished in the top stud, and I believe to be the lowest ownership for all the studs. Just something to take note of. He was terrible in game 2. Again, I was very bullish and I was very loud about it. So, I gotta own it when he was terrible, and he was terrible. I think he had 29 points. That's just awful, awful production. So Daniel House. Daniel House was a little bit of a filler for me all over the place today. I had a forward spot available in a lot of different places. And I told guys in the write-up today, my thoughts on Daniel House was his confidence came back in game 2. And I'm good with him in all formats. He does fit nicely into my cash lineup. Nothing extravagant. I've watched every minute of the Rockets Thunder so far, and he just looked much more confident in game 2. So he got a little bump in overtime. I believe he had a rebound in the three-pointer, if I remember correctly. Jeff Green was big, and it's a big part of why we ended up here with all the cash. So I don't remember exactly what I said about Jeff Green today. It wasn't anything over the top. Oh, I put him up in centers. See game log, playing some point center and playing really well. I don't expect him to be my main lineup, but I like him in any format as my cheap center option. So kind of like Ibaka the day before, It was my pay down option at center. Just happened to have a good game. Get a little lucky right there. I used Augustine in I think every single lineup today, and he just fit for me. What I like about Augustine is he runs a lot of his time with the Magic right now with no Aaron Gordon, opposite time of Nikola Vucevic. Vucevic is the better player than everybody else on the Magic, but when he's out there with, Markelle Fultz and stuff like that, he takes over the offense a little bit. When Augustine's out there, it's him and Terrence Ross, and he does run some time with Vooch, but I also like the veteran presence of Augustine, which is why I rolled him in every single lineup today. After that, Jimmy Butler. I talked him up yesterday. It's part of the mid-tier build. He was excellent. And then Goran Dragic, who just happened to fit into this lineup that I like quite a bit. Again, I didn't do, anything special. Every one of these guys was in the write-up today. For guard options, I said DJ Augustine and Markelle Fultz. Plan is to use them in cash games with studs. Fultz was terrible. I used Augustine everywhere. Dragic, Eric Gordon, Malcolm Brogdon. All three guys fire. All three were the guard recommendations. Small forward. This was the guy that kind of was the monkey wrench of the day. James Ennis, Jimmy Butler, Eric Gordon, C guard. Power forward, James Ennis, and then Giannis and Anthony Davis. I guess that'd be the one difference here is I used Daniel House, the power forward spot here, as opposed to in the center position, because I used Jeff Green in that spot as well, all while fading hard and not purposely for this one. Center options, AD, Vooch, and Jeff Green. LeBron James, Daniel House. I mean, all these guys were in the write-up today. It was all there for the taking. We try to make things as easy for people who don't know as much about the NBA as possible. And then you just got to get a little bit lucky. I just happened to get these guys fit into a lineup that worked for me. There's always luck associated when you win GPPs. It just is. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Oftentimes when you lose, there's bad luck associated with it. But when you get to the top, and I'm sure lots of you guys have been there before, you definitely got to get a little bit lucky that day. So, all right, that's a lot of talking from you guys. Thanks for watching. Click the thumbs up button. Best of luck on Sunday.